on February 23rd, 1977, in his home that he shares with my mother on Coney Island Avenue in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. I'm going to try to capture the flavor of Pop's childhood, his youth, his immigration to America, and his struggle to survive here and bring up a family, and ultimately reach a point in his life where he retired relatively comfortably, considering his background, up to today. Now, I don't want you to be bashful about anything. I'm taping it now, Pa. So first of all, I want to know, how old are you now?
I was 85 on January 16th, 1977.
That's last month you were 85. Last month.
Huh?
Last month.
Yes.
Okay. Pop has a little problem with his hearing, so we'll take that into consideration. Where were you born, Pa?
I was born in the Ukraine.
What do you mean you were born in the Ukraine? Where were you born in the Ukraine?
I was born in the Ukraine, Russia.
Where?
In a small town by the name Bogopol.
Where is that in the Ukraine?
Near Odessa.
Oh, not too far from Odessa.
Huh?
Not too far from
Not
Odessa.
too far from Odessa.
And you were born, then that would make it in 1892.
Yes, 1892.
What was your father's name?
His Jewish name was Avum Duwad.
Yeah, you realize I'm going to ask you some questions that are very hard to remember, but certain things I'm sure you remember.
I remember. Avum
It's,
Duwad.
85 years ago.
Yeah.
And what was your mother's name?
Mariasi.
Yassi and Avrum Dovid.
Yeah.
And tell me, you were a very little boy when how old were you when your parents died?
Since I remember,
Yes.
I was 4 years of age.
When?
And
What happened when you were 4 years?
it happened, we were playing with the kids, and I went to take a ride, on this, and they turned around, I put my finger in there, and I squashed my finger.
Yeah, well, no, that's not what I mean, Pa. What happened, when did your parents die?
Oh. My parents died when I was 11.
Both of them?
Yes.
The
In 3
same
months.
year?
Same year, in 3 months.
3
died.
months apart.
Yes.
What, do you know what your father died from?
Well, since I remember, I know he was very sick, a chronic coughing,
And your mother?
and she also the same. Maybe she had some other sicknesses.
How
but
many children did they have?
We were 4 brothers and 1 sister. 4 brothers and 1 sister.
And do you remember anything about your mother and father when you were younger than 11 years old?
Sure, when I was 4.
Yes. Well, not particularly 4, but what do you remember about them generally?
All I could remember that my father couldn't make anything for a living, and he was sick all the while.
What kind of work did he do?
Well, practically he didn't do. He was like what you call it?
Was he a handyman?
Not a handyman. He was not a handyman.
A schickingle?
Yeah, something like this.
Yeah, he used to run errands for people.
Yeah.
In other words, he had no real
He
skill.
didn't. No, he didn't have no skill, and he couldn't make more than 15 cents a day.
And your mother?
My mother, the most of the time I remember her, she was sick, laying in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was a little bit better, she was working for the rich people.
So you had a very
Tough.
sad childhood,
Very
very
sad, yeah,
tough. All
yeah.
right, now when you were 11 and your parents died, what happened to you?
It happened like this. We were living in one room. That is
Who is we?
my mother, my father, and I.
What about your brothers and sisters?
Well, one brother was married, and he had 5 children at that time, the older brother.
Uh-huh.
One brother was in the service
Uh-huh.
in the Russian army, and one brother was working by tailor, learning the trade. That's the truth. And the sister was went to Odessa to work in a factory.
So you were the youngest.
Yeah, I was the youngest.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was with them, and my mother was very sick, and the women there said, you know, she's suffering so much, she can't die, because she lays in a iron cot, you know, like a
An
bed.
iron cot.
Yeah. Take her off and put her on the floor so she'll
Well,
die.
that's superstition. That has no
Yeah.
basis
But
in fact, you know.
they
but,
did it.
These were.
They did it. And she
Well,
died.
she probably would have died
Yeah,
anyway.
but he was laying the same hour. He was laying in another cot, in a wooden cot, and he was very sick. But when she died, he get up and he walked outside from the house, in the front of the house, and I was sitting there on the ground. This I will never forget till I'll die. Never forget. He put his hand on my head and he started crying. He said, my child, I will not be long with you. And just in 3 months, he died.
Okay, now, so that's really all that you remember about your parents. I asked you before, what happened to you after that?
After that, when I still was 11 years old,
Right.
so
What
a cousin
happened?
of mine, he was an operator on men's clothing. He came around, he took me, and he brought me to a tailor.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah,
What was his
my
name?
my cousin, yeah, Yankel Brodsky.
Your Uncle Brudsky. And he taught you the tailoring
No, he
trade?
didn't. He
No.
brought me to a person, a tailor, and he
I
said,
see.
I'm giving you this kid away for 3 years, and you learn him a trade.
You were going to serve your apprenticeship there,
Yes.
and he was supposed to feed you and
Yes.
house you and clothe you.
That's right. But the result was that I used to get beatings every day, and food I didn't get. They didn't have food enough himself.
All right.
They used to.
How long did you stay with him?
Well, I stayed maybe 6 months, 7 months.
And then what happened to you?
And then my father picked me up on the street, and I was
Well,
barefoot.
your father was already
No,
dead.
yeah. All right. Then, after that, I went to another tailor. Another tailor also used to beat me up, but he teach me something, a trade.
Yes.
And I used to go from one tailor to the other until I learned the trade.
How old were you when you...
When I learned the trade, when I was 18 years old, 19, I was able to make a garment complete.
So from 11 till 19, you didn't have a home that you could call your own?
No, I didn't have a home.
You went from home to home.
Yeah, from one tailor
and
to
you
another.
didn't know
And
what it is
sleep-
to have a mother and father.
No. And I used to sleep on the floor.
So as a child, you had very little love.
That's right.
Okay, and then when did you meet Mama?
I was working for Mama's cousin as a tailor. I used to make jackets there. And
Oh, before I get into that, Pa, I want to know, while you were a young boy, you were not bar mitzvahed because nobody could
No,
take
no.
care of you. Did you
No.
have any Jewish education?
in cheder ben ik gegaan. Ik heb geen leren. Ik heb geen dovenen goed.
Yes.
Ik heb geen dommen en beste wie alle kinderen.
They sent you, they let you go. After all, you worked for strange people.
Bis 11 uur.
Oh, that was before you,
Ja,
I see.
bis 11 uur.
While you were with Mama. After 11, you had
That's
nothing,
all,
no
that's
more.
all.
Right.
Dan was je al.
I wanted to get that point clear.
No,
That
no.
was the end of your education
Yes.
when you were 11.
I couldn't sign my name in no language. Niet geniet
No, except that you knew how to read Yiddish.
Oh, yes.
And but not to write. You had to
No.
learn that yourself later on.
Yes, Yiddish was
All right, that's important.
Yeah.
Then, how did you meet Mama?
Well, I worked for Mama's cousin. I used to make jackets for him, a tailor.
Yes.
And she came from America. And she met me there.
Is that near Kravosa?
Ja, she's geboren in Kavosa. Geboren is in Kavosa. Then haben sie gewohnt in Amerika.
I see.
So we got acquainted, and I told her I like her, and she was a very nice girl, and I want to marry her.
She was very pretty as a young girl, and you were a handsome young man.
Well, yeah, he was.
Where did you get married? In Europe?
In Amerika, in Europe.
You got married with a chuppah?
Yeah. Mijn Schwester gewinnt sie der Chossene. Mein Bruder hat nicht gewollt kommen.
Now, all right, now, after you why didn't your brother want to come to the wedding?
Er hat nicht gewollt, soll weg von Amerika.
I see you planned to come to America as soon as you got married.
Yeah, I told him.
And Mama wanted to go too.
Yeah.
Why did you want to come to America?
Why?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you have to go in the Russian army there.
That was one reason. Another reason, the living wasn't too good either.
No.
Even though you had a trade, could you make a living there? From the poor Jewish people in the state?
Well,
they didn't have much
I
money.
used to make $9 a week.
But
more than I made here when I arrived to America.
So then the main reason was to avoid going into the Russian military.
Yeah.
All right. So how did you come to America? Where did you get enough money?
Well, they give Mama a little money.
Her
parents,
yeah.
And those days, all we need is $50.
Enough for steerage for the passage.
Yeah, $50.
All right. Now you came to a strange country where they didn't speak your language.
No.
And you didn't speak their language.
That's right.
Your customs were different. You came from a Middle European shtetl in Russia, where the only goyim you ever met was in a pogrom.
Yes.
And now, all of a sudden, you're in a goyish land again, but it's different. Tell me what went through your mind. How did you feel when you were coming to this country? And you were...
When I was on the ship, we traveled on sea for 21 days. And it happens like this, that I was on the boat with Mama and her sister.
Which sister? She had two sisters.
Sadie.
Sadie and
Sadie.
Aunt Rose.
Sadie.
Sadie was only 16 years old at the time.
Everybody on the boat, the most of the people were sick. Well, 2 or 3 died. And the most of them were laying sick.
No, Pa, well, I really...
Mama was sick.
Wait a minute. I want you to stick to the question.
Yeah.
What went through... You know, the trip is a trip. It was a hard trip. Everybody knows that. We'll get into that later. But I really want to know, in your heart, what were you thinking about, Pa, about coming to a strange country?
I tell you the truth, I didn't think anything about it. I didn't know. I figured that if I know my trade, maybe I'll make a living. Make a living.
Were you frightened?
Huh?
Were you frightened?
No, I wasn't frightened exactly. I was young and I was strong.
Did
and
you believe that the streets were paved with gold and that it was a
No, I
golden
didn't.
Medina?
No, I didn't know
And
that.
now,
No, I
no,
didn't
did you
believe.
think that there was going to be plenty of work and plenty of...
No, I didn't know.
But you knew you'd have to work hard.
Yes,
But there was work, but you'd have to work
yeah,
hard.
but when I arrived in my trade, I started working my trade. In the beginning, I didn't work in my trade. I couldn't find a job. I had another job, which I had to buy for $10.
You had to pay to get the job.
Yeah, $10 to work on a machine which we are making ads for the sailors.
Hmm. You came here in what
And I was only 20 years old.
What year did you come here?
In 1912.
1912. And you were 20.
Huh?
You were 20 years old.
I was 20 years old and I was very sick. I suffered with my teeth.
Yeah.
All my teeth, my gum was rotten. And I suffered so much I couldn't.
You probably had a very poor, insufficient diet when you were a
That's
young
right.
man. You, after
And,
all, nobody
I
cared
suffered
too
a
much.
long time and to get my teeth out gradually.
Yeah, right.
And then I found a job on my trade, $5 a week.
And
Mama
then,
went
then
to
you were already 21 years old and you started
Yes,
a family.
Start a family.
You started a
And
family.
Mama went to work first, and she used to make $6-7 a week. But when she worked, I didn't have a job.
Where did
I
you
worked,
live when you came here?
Huh?
Where did you live when you came here? Where did you live when you came?
Oh, I lived in 77 Allen Street.
You remember the number?
Yes,
The
77
building is not there anymore.
No, well, maybe yes.
No. You
no.
know, I was born on Stanton Street,
Yeah.
and that building is not
No,
there.
77
There's a school where
yeah,
I was
I lived
born.
there. And
Where was
Phil-
Abe born, Pa? What street? Where
Abe-
did you live when Abe was born?
Abe was born, I don't know, in Stanton Street.
No, was he born in Stanton
Yeah,
Street also?
yeah, I think so.
Both of us on the kitchen table.
Yeah, no, he
Milton.
was born in a hospital.
No, Milton was born in the hospital, not Abe. Abe
I-
was the firstborn.
So he was born in the hospital then.
Who? Milton, not Abe. Milton
Abe
was
too,
born in
Abe
St.
too.
John's Hospital.
I don't know.
No, I know that Abe was not born in the hospital.
So I suffered.
Those were very poor, suffering, ignorant years.
Yeah, I lived on the 5th floor, and I was young and strong, and I used to walk up the 6 floors. I thought on the 6th, I thought I'm living on the 5th. I used to carry out the groceries if I could buy them.
Tell me, Pa, your young years, in your early 20s, when I was born already, your middle 20s, and Abe was born, and you had a beautiful wife, and you worked very hard, were those happy years?
Not exactly. I was still working on the needle industry. In the needle industry, I was an operator, and I used to work hard.
And they were difficult years.
Difficult.
Now, as
Till
the
1927.
children, we'll get to that.
Until
We'll
1927.
get to that. I know that. So you had 2 children already.
Yeah.
And you were working very hard.
Yeah.
You didn't think about plans for the children's future.
What?
You didn't think about
No,
it because you
no.
didn't understand that. You
That's
came
right.
from such a poor background.
That's right.
But there's something that you gave your children that you don't realize you gave them.
Well,
and I'll tell
I
you
wouldn't
what that
say
is.
I give them.
Now, I'll tell you what that is. May I? After all, I'm the
Yeah.
one that received it. In all the years that we lived with you and Mama, I'm sure that like any normal married couple, you must have had little differences and disagreements and arguments, but never in front of the children. You never had a disagreement with Mama in front of the children.
No, no.
And this humanity that you taught us without realizing it made us better people so that we could live with other people peacefully. And this is quite a heritage. Not too many people can say this as I can, Pa, that they lived in a peaceful home. So you didn't think about education, not because you didn't want the best for us, but because you were ignorant and you were downtrodden. And then you got out of the tailoring business because it was very difficult and you couldn't make a living at it. What did you do then?
I had some money. I had $1,500, and Mama told me, you know something, let's buy a house, and we'll make it good. And I didn't agree with her. I was listening to her sister, because her sister was in business,
What sister?
Rose,
Okay.
and I bought a hand laundry,
Instead of a house, you bought a hand laundry.
and I suffered there with Mama and three children.
We all suffered, I remember it.
Yeah, used to sleep on the floor, and I used to work like a slave, and we were in danger of our life in that neighborhood in 73rd
Yes, it was a
Street.
Gentile, anti-Semitic
Yeah,
neighborhood
terrific.
with Germans and Italians and
Yeah,
Irish.
you know, one day a customer came in, he said to me, Phil, why do you have to stay here and giving away your life for nothing? Why don't you go and work for the city of New York? I went to the club, and the club said, first we have to give jobs to those who came back from service. Then we'll talk about you. And my friend said, well, you deserve also to get a better break in life, and we'll see.
What was his name, Pa?
Louis Edelmuth.
Edelmuth. I wondered if you remembered, of
Yeah,
course.
Louis
I
Edelmuth.
remember him.
Louis Edelmuth. And
He
he
was-
helped me.
He was a gentleman,
Yeah. He was a coal sampler
a coal sampler. He
Coal.
sampled coal for
Yeah.
a big coal company.
for the city of New York.
Oh, for the city.
For the city, yeah. He was a city employee. And I took the test, and in those days you didn't have to know too much. All you have to know is sign your name, and you must have a strong back.
Yes,
And
and you had to be 5 feet tall, I think.
Yeah, something like
And you
this.
had to weigh a certain weight, which you did not. I remember you ate a lot of bananas and potatoes
Yes,
to gain
yeah.
5 pounds.
That's right, to gain 5 pounds. But
And you
otherwise,
stretched yourself to gain an inch or a half
no,
an
I
inch.
was strong. I was
I
strong.
know you were strong.
I was strong, and I got the job. And the first day I went to the job,
What
Was-
was your job? In those days, they didn't call it Department of Sanitation. They called it Department of
Department of
Street
Street
Cleaning.
Cleaning. Department
So
of
you
Street
were
Cleaning.
you were a street cleaner.
I was a street cleaner.
And 2 years after that was the big depression. The stock market crashed, and all these people who turned up their noses at street cleaners, they were out of work. They were
In
starving in the bread.
1929.
They were in the bread lines, but you
Yeah.
made a living for your family.
But I started work with $26 a week, and I had enough to buy for the children cream and milk and everything. See?
Pop, tell me briefly about your years on the sanitation department. How you worked outdoors all the time, and you worked very hard, and it didn't do you any harm because you're a strong man. You're still strong today.
Well, when I used to go to work in the morning, 7 o'clock sharp, we must be on the line, lined up for roll call.
In your work clothes.
In my work clothes, in the uniform. And I had a big Italian sandwich with cheese and everything, onions, and I used to eat this before the roll call.
Before 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. After when the roll call was finished, I used to take my canker with a broom or the scraper and go out.
Scraper is that wide shovel. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
wide and
yeah,
very
wide
heavy.
shovel. So you go out, and but I didn't go to work right away. We stopped in Tony's first. We stopped in Tony's, Italian grocery store.
Sure, because you didn't have enough breakfast.
Yeah, and we had some eggs and maybe a little wine, and then I go to work. I was working hard,
All this days hard. You tried to rip the cobblestones out of the streets.
and nobody
Everybody knew about Phil.
nobody would try to help me anything. I had to help the other guys. If they want to, let's say we had 3 inches eyes, 5 inches eyes, all of a sudden the nights they come up, you know, the sun comes out. Oh, everybody gets on the reels. You take a hose and a reel, and the hose.
The pressure
got,
of the water.
Pressure got by 120.
Yeah, and
to
it
push,
lifted up
lift,
the
yeah.
ice off the pavement.
Yeah, I went out on First Avenue somewhere, and 32nd Street, First Avenue, and Washington Street there, and a crowd of people was around, and say, look at the guy, look at the guy. I used to hit the water with the water. The whole hyzer jump up and crack and go and go. And people stand, see the guy. One time I was working there and I tried to polish the stones. Yes, the guys asked me, what are you doing this for? I say, Mark and Tony gotta come here.
Mark and Tony, oh, he was a big shot at the
Yeah,
time.
Mark and Tony's gonna come here to
Yes.
speak.
Yes. I believe he was a congressman at the time.
Yeah, he was running for Congress.
Running for Congress.
And,
so you had to make the streets especially clean.
Especially, yeah.
You enjoyed that
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
You
yeah.
had.
And one.
It was
we
very
used to work-
gratifying to you to
One
clean
month,
the
one
street.
month we worked days, and 1 month nights.
Yes.
So we went out to work, and all the push carts went out. They pulled in already to the garages, the push carts, and they left all the garbage and everything, you know. And there a strong storm come down, you know, and I'm dressed with a raincoat, boots and everything, and I try to push in the water and the garbage. Nobody's on the street, Guinness.
But you was
All
there.
that was-
You were there.
My foreman was a German guy. And he came along and he hollered at me, God
Yes.
damn it, get inside.
Yeah, get out of the storm.
Get out of this thing, get inside. And he went away, and about 10 minutes later, he come back to see if I'm there. And I was there. He started hollering at me. I should quit and go into the section. So we go into the section, and the storm was big, and you were laying there till 4. We were supposed to work till 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, we go home.
And now, I want to say something else, Pa, about sort of to wind it up. These were your early years. These were your working years. These were your prime years. These were the years that you made a place for yourself in this country. You raised your children. Your 3 boys grew up. They were educated the best way that they could be with what you were able to give them. And you retired from the Department of Sanitation, but you were still a young man. You were,
I
what?
was 60 years of
60 years old. That's what I am now, 60 years old. And since you had no special skills, you were a laborer, you got yourself a job as a messenger
Message.
for a photo processing place, a photo offset.
What?
Photo offset
Yeah.
plant. And then you got a job as a
Edro photo
right.
service.
And eventually you went to work for Peter Di Natale,
Yeah.
the jewelry firm on Broadway and Maiden Lane.
I worked for him 5 years.
And you worked until how old were you when you finally retired?
79 years of age.
79 years. And then you picked yourself up. Oh, you in the meantime had bought a house.
Yes.
You were in your 60s when you bought this house in Brighton Beach on Brighton 3rd Street.
Yeah, Brighton 3rd Street.
And eventually, when you got on in years, it became too much of a problem for you to keep the house, so you sold it, and you took an apartment on Coney Island Avenue.
No, before that, before I sold the house, I retired.
Yes, yes.
We decided to live a little bit, Mom and I.
Yes.
And we traveled all over. First, I traveled to see my brother, which I didn't see for many years.
Many years, like 50, how many years, Pa?
Well,
I think 52 years.
but I didn't see him? No, less than that.
I don't think so, Pa.
One of my brother was dead already. He died before I ever got there.
All right. It wasn't much less than 50 years, though, that when you went to Argentina,
Yes.
you discovered a whole family of loving relatives,
all the
nieces and nephews and cousins, and tremendous family.
When Mama and I arrived there, so Mama recognized my brother. I couldn't recognize him. He was old and gray, you know. I remember him when he was...
a boy.
Sure, he was 20 years old, 22. And there he was already have grandchildren. I didn't see him. So we were very happy to be there. And from there we went home. We spent only a month.
What I'm trying to bring out is while you had this house on Brighton 3rd Street,
Yes.
you went there, you went to Israel,
Yeah.
you took a cruise on the Holland America line. You went one way on the Staten Dam and you came back, I think, on the Rotterdam, or the other way around, but they were beautiful, beautiful ships and
Holland
very,
American line.
very luxurious.
Huh?
It was a very luxurious cruise.
When I walked into that room where I supposed to be on the boat, and I asked myself, will I be living in this place? It looked like for a prince. The beautiful furniture, and a man used to come every day cleaning the carpeting. And every meal was a banquet. Every meal was a banquet. And we had 6 people to the table, Mom and I, and 2 couples from the West, Gentiles. And they were so happy to know us and to meet us that we all took pictures and they didn't let me pay anything. They paid, and we still have these pictures.
Good. I want to ask you one more thing, Pa. So we know that these trips were beautiful, but you also were in Paris. You were in Paris.
We were in Paris, yeah.
You were also, were you in London?
No, not in London.
Were you in Rome?
No.
But you did see Paris.
We were in Paris, yeah.
Yes.
We were.
Now, all right. Now, after you've made these several trips, you also went to visit friends in California, in Los Angeles.
Yes, all over.
And then when you came home finally, you made a second trip to Buenos Aires.
A second trip?
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that too was very enjoyable. Now you decided that since you were getting older, and it was a little difficult to take the winters in New York, and Mama didn't feel too well in Florida, and she attributed that to the dampness there.
That's right.
So after spending a couple of winters in Florida, you decided to try Tucson, Arizona.
Yes.
And you spent one whole winter in Tucson, which you enjoyed very much.
Yeah.
Then you went back a second winter, and that was enjoyable. But then what happened there to bring you back?
It happened that Mama got sick. She said she got a lump under the breast. So my friend took her to the doctor, and the doctor examined her, and he said, yes, I could see you have a lump, but I want to send you to another doctor. Let the other doctor examine you.
Okay, then Mom came, the other doctor examined her, and he suggested that she come to New York. She came to New York, and in the Memorial Hospital, she had a modified radical mastectomy of the right breast. And she was apparently cured of cancer. And you went back to Tucson.
After 5.5 months.
Right. And you got yourself a beautiful, luxurious apartment.
Yeah.
In this apartment complex, they had a swimming pool,
Everything.
elevators.
Everything.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And then what happened? Why aren't you there now? It's the middle of winter.
One day I get up in the morning, and Mama gets up, and I ask her something, and whatever she got to answer me, she started repeating 3-4 times the same word, and she falls from one part to the other and to the wall. She cannot walk. And right away, I knew that she's sick. She's very sick. And I took her to the doctor there. And the doctor couldn't talk to her. He had to talk to me because she didn't know much what to say. But whatever he acquired for more, it was enough to know a little bit. And then I told him that she was sick once upon a time. He said, to me, it looks like a stroke. The doctor said, but Mr. Garberg, I cannot do anything in 2 days. You must give me 10 days to try out medications. And he gave me a medication. I paid him for the visit. And then I received a letter from my son, and he said, bring
Which son?
Mama, from you, bring Mama home. Bring Mama home. So I went back to the doctor, and I told him that I want to go home. And this was only, instead of 10 days, was only 4 days. So he said, if you want to go home, this is your business. You could go home, take this medication, and go home. And I came home, and it didn't do me much of good.
I met you at the airport. I believe I met you at the airport.
Maybe,
and I
yes.
saw that Mama was in a very confused state and very frightened. And shortly after
She's much better now.
shortly after that, she was admitted to Kingsbrook Hospital,
Yeah.
where they didn't seem to do her much good. The upshot of all the hospital and treatment and everything is that she is not suffering from cancer, nor did any cancer metastasize. She is suffering what the doctors think is either an insufficiency of blood to the brain because of a possible heart failure, which could have done some damage to the brain, or a stroke. But whatever it was, she has improved immeasurably only because of the devoted attention that you have given her, Pa. The selfless, devoted attention and love and care that you have given her that she could not have gotten anywheres from anybody.
I want
And
to say now,
it's a credit to you that she has improved, but by the same token, Pa, excuse me, you are destroying yourself. We need you, Pa.
you know, I want to tell you this. If I wouldn't give her this attention what I do, she wouldn't be here no more.
There's no question about that, Pa.
She wouldn't be
There's
here
no
more.
question about
She
that.
sits on the boardwalk and she's so quiet. And I ask her something, she listens.
I know, and you take her out every day that the weather permits.
First thing in the morning, this morning, as soon as she was off the bed, the first thing I did is put her in the shower. Before anything, I put her in the shower. It was already 9 o'clock. Put her in the shower and I wash her around and everything. And the whole procedure, giving her the shower and dressing her back ready for breakfast, it'll take 3 minutes.
Not 3 minutes, but
5 minutes, not more,
all
not
right.
more.
All right.
I adjust
Who times you? Who rushes you?
well, I know, but I adjust the water so I could hold my hand.
You're still running, huh? You're
Yeah,
still running.
Yeah, I adjust my, and then I say, step right in there. She steps in, and I wash her around and tell her to wash herself around. She should do it herself, you know, face and everything. And I say, step right out on the carpet. There's a carpet. And I give her a little dressing, and I take her to the kitchen, and it's breakfast on the table. And after breakfast, a couple minutes, she's all dressed up. Today, I didn't have to put a bundler up because it was 50.
50
almost
degrees today. It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
So I took her out, and we were sitting there a while, talking to
So she
people.
gets her fresh air, she gets sunshine,
yeah,
and
yeah,
she
yeah.
gets exercise. And
I-
you know what, Pa? She looks very well.
Yeah. I tell her, she complains the arm is swollen, the right arm is swollen. So I say, you have to make it 25 times like this. 1, 2, 1,
Well,
2.
does she know how much 25 is?
She counts it.
She does.
She does.
Oh, well, that's a tremendous improvement, Pa.
She counts it till
25 is a lot.
a lot. Like this, up and down, up and down. 25. She counts it.
And she could do it 25
Yeah,
times?
yeah,
That's
she's doing
wonderful.
it. So till 20, and then I say another 5, you know. Instead of 21, 22, so
Yeah,
another 5. And that's the way it is.
Pa, if you keep up this way, you're going to cure her 100%.
I don't know. She keeps on telling me at night, I don't feel good. Yeah, I want to take her to a doctor. I don't know to which doctor she'll take her. She complains, the most important part, she complains, she don't feel good in her mouth. She a pasquine moil.
Pa, let me explain something to you. Dr. Rayner is an excellent internist.
No,
Pa.
yeah.
You must take her to Dr. Rayner. Dr.
her.
Rayner's an excellent internist. You wouldn't take her to a cancer specialist for the bad taste in her mouth. You wouldn't take her to a foot doctor. You must take her to an
I
internist.
take her to Dr. Rayner, and
And
I
trust-
wouldn't,
trust Dr. Rayner.
I wouldn't want she should go through the procedure, taking blood and this and that.
Trust Dr. Rayner and talk to her. She's a feeling, understanding, sensitive person, Pa. She's not going to put Mama through anything that you don't want her to do, and she's not going to do anything that's not necessary.
I'm going to
do.
tell her this, that the most important complaint she complains to me, she a pasquine moil.
Okay, Pa. I don't want to discuss this on the tape, but it's important that you follow it up. Okay, for now.